Hi guys, and welcome back again to another episode of Words with Al. Before I begin, I want to wish you all a very happy new year. Urime shumë vit në ri dhe ju dëshiroj të gjitha senet mira. So without further ado, let's go on guys. We have a lot to go through. We have a lot to investigate together. We Albanians need to stick together now more than ever in a world that is becoming more and more divided, and where civilizations and interests out there are playing us against each other. Okay, and plus our lack of knowledge in terms of where we came from and who we are, that this knowledge must be known now. We must know who we are, where we came from, who we share ancestry with, and what happened to us. Okay, yes, because our history will unite us, and it cannot be disrupted or destroyed by other powers out there, which are very interested in doing just that. Okay, sounded a little bit grim there, but we know now. We know the game of civilization that is happening. We know the power play of politics, of interests that are operating out there, and that do not take in the interest of natives or smaller groups of people into consideration, because they have other motives, other agendas. Okay, which again just highlights how important it is that we know, so that nobody can gaslight us again. Okay, so I'm going to begin with this picture here. That is the expansion of farming in Western Eurasia. Okay, so now they have made this map. As you can see, this is the expansion of farming in Western Eurasia. And this now shows us where Albanians came from and why this is now linked to the EV13. We will go into the genetics as well. But just to illustrate to you, or just to demonstrate to you, so that there can be no argument and no confusion about where we came from. Okay. So that the Pelasgian theory, although it might be true, we don't need it, because we were not just Pelasgians, we were something else before that. And that is very important. We must know the continuous process, the continuity of what happened to us, the people, right? Because we are not static. We're not limited to a specific time and an area only. We have moved, and we have changed, and that is why we need to know. We need to know this change. We need to know this development, because it will explain very many things: where our language came from, how we developed, why we made the words we did, and what significance they had for our living, for our understanding. Yes. Okay. So, and now you can see very clearly that mankind, or farming, began over here in today's Palestine. I won't say Israel. Sorry, I'm not a Zionist. No pro-Zionist, thank you. Okay. Yes. I'm not going to go into the politics, okay? I'm not going to go into the politics, because I know that a lot of Albanians liked Israel because they supported Kosovo's independence, but that was just a geopolitical move, okay? To gain recognition for Israel, because nobody else in the world wanted to recognize Israel. Okay, and I don't want Albanians to be lumped together with Israels. Okay, we're not the same. No, we're not the same. We are Europeans. We have been here for a very, very long time. And we did not steal land, neither did we expel people, and neither did we subjugate others, like Israelis are doing today. Okay. So that we are not the same, and we will never be the same, because we are in fact the old Afro-Asiatic people. In fact, we Albanians The Albanian language is the closest to the old Hebrew language, so Afro-Asiatic. Okay, meaning that the Israels that are there now, they have no idea that in fact Proto-Hebrew is spoken in Albanian and the Slavic languages, including some of the German words. So what I'm saying is that ancient Hebrew, the words were spread and are still in use today. They have just been developed. That is how we realized that eye, tiye, unyam, nayena, nayemi, ioni. Okay, meaning that these words are ancient. And Albanians don't know that we were once Jewish. Yes, we were Jewish. We were, because we find it in our language. Yes, but then we became Albanians later on. Now, as you can see, this map now aligns with my theory. However, there is one point that is not taken into this consideration or into this picture here, and that is that we might actually have crossed the Mediterranean Sea a bit earlier. And that will explain why we find the EV13 in Europe. Yes, because mankind did not begin here. We know that mankind did not begin here. They began further down in Africa. And they climbed all the way up to the Nile, where they began building pyramids. And why did they begin building pyramids? Because they viewed light as God, so that they wanted to get as close to God as possible. Yes, and they wanted to know everything about the light and the movement of the stars, because for them, light was sacred. And it still is. It's just that now we are ignorant, and we don't really, we're not wide enough. We don't have a breadth, a true breadth. We don't have a true width of perception. Our perception is limited due to our knowledge. So the more we know, the more we will see. Thus, now we will see more. Okay, so our ancestors built the pyramids together, not as slaves. They became slaves much later. They were enslaved much later by the elites, what would later create the Egyptian elites. Those would then view themselves as God, and all the other ones as slaves. But this took immense long time to happen. In the beginning, it was pure, and we were a big family. And then as development went, and knowledge grew, and development grew, and our understanding grew, we spread. But those who stayed in Egypt developed a full civilization, and thus also the first elites. And those elites will be the first distinction, which would cause the slaves, the enslavement of mankind. This process has now continued. Okay, so enslavement is still happening. It has not ended. It has only changed form. Now it is in the banks and in debt, in other forms. Enslavement, that is. Yes. We all have to work for our food. We all have to work for our homes to operate them, and so on and so forth. But this whole banking system, unfortunately, was driven. Replaced slavery. Okay. Yes. So I want us to wake up. I want us to realize how amazing we are, how great we are, and what is in our abilities. And plus, we need to know our past, because without our past, we really can't know where we are going. Right. And plus, we are also then in danger of being corrupted by everyone else and everyone else's opinion. And what we don't need now is our opinions. We don't need opinions. What I'm presenting here is not an opinion. I have only presented the facts, the words. Okay? Yes, because all my findings, everything that I've shown to you so far, can be researched and investigated and examined, meaning it can be proven. Yes, it is there. Everything that I presented to you is out there, is in existence, meaning it is not an opinion. Okay. So what happened to us then? Yes, what happened to us? Albanians out there. Hey, welcome, welcome, my brothers and sisters. We will realize together who we are and where we came from, okay? But this is a long journey because we are much more than what we think we are, which is also the reason why I made all these videos that I have, right? With the spirituality, with God, where I talk about God and truth. And for you guys who are not, are watching this for the first time, I have had a near-death experience, and that near-death experience showed me who I am, what life is, and what God is, and I will continue spreading that word, because in the end, we will all die, so that this knowledge is only worth what it is worth for the time that we are here. But that does not mean that it is not unique, or that it does not stand on its own legs, and that it doesn't deserve its own place in history. Right. So that the Slavs and the Greeks and everybody else who tried to, or who, who tried to corrupt the Albanian history, is what I want to stand against. Okay. Yes. Yes. But in the end of the day, what we can see now is that we all spoke one language because we all came from the same people. Okay? And remember that it wasn't a language, it was a set of words. Set of words pertaining to ideas. And these ideas were all known. Thus, they were spread throughout all the languages that exist, meaning that these ideas can be traced back to their consonantal roots, which is what I have done. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is not a hocus pocus now. We can now see that all these languages are related at different stages, but that they are diverging slowly but steadily. Okay. So we did speak one language before. This is not hocus pocus. This is not a rabbit hole. The only rabbit hole that you really are in is all the media that exists and all the erroneous knowledge that exists out there. Because our scientists believe that we are monkeys who who did not know anything. But that is not the truth. We knew everything before. Yes, we just couldn't say it. We couldn't express it. We couldn't conceptualize it. Because we hadn't made words. We never used sound before. In the beginning, there was only stillness. And this stillness, this presence, this sensory presence, allowed us to see everything. Nature, man, woman, earth, water, the stars and the sun, and space, and the whole universe. Meaning that you do not need words to understand what you're part of. Okay? You don't need to know what you're part of. You can only see it. You can see it, thus you know it. You can't intellectualize it. You can't put it onto a word and express it. Because it didn't exist back then. Back then there was only the sensory perception. And this was enough, because this is pure intelligence. This is not cognition. This is not opinion or fantasy. Right. Which is kind of what science also is. Science is a mixture of imagination and a mixture of actual science. The reason why I say imagination is because they forget that we are intelligence. We're not monkeys. Monkeys are not monkeys. Monkeys are intelligence. Plants are intelligence. Fungi is intelligence. Mammals are intelligence. Dinosaurs are intelligence. Everything Every life form is intelligence. And that is the end of that question. Okay. Now, so now we know that. So I'm going to divide this into separate pieces, okay? Because I'm doing first now the spread of the people, what we see here, what we can, I'm trying to give you as a scientific as I can, because I want this to be as robust as it can. Okay, so now we know the farming. Okay, this is now a theory of where our languages came from, which coincides with that, with the last picture, right? So we see here Anatolian, Armenian, they divided over there, they went up, and then Anatolian became the Greek, and the Anatolian also became the Albanians, and the Albanians then further went on to become Italians, and the Celtics, and so on and so forth. But remember now that these names did not exist. These names did not exist, and they are not. These are just names. Remember that. We're life. We're intelligence. We're life. We have been here forever. Forever. We have only spread, split, and developed so much so that we now are distinct. But the truth is that we are still the same life. We will all die. We will all meet God in the end. Ooh. Don't be afraid, okay? God is beautiful and God loves you. God will never judge you. Ever. It's only you. You will judge you. You will judge you. If you do anything to anyone, you will judge you. Because you will experience what you have done. And that pain will be yours. So that that is what God is. But you don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be afraid. As long as there is love in you, you will be fine. And even if it isn't, you will be fine. Okay. Because God will not judge you. Now, let's go back to the world now. Okay, I know God is talking about God makes this whole video very religious. I know. But we're not talking about religion. We're talking about the truth. The truth does not move. Now has never moved. Now is still now. Yeah, we call it New Year, but really it's not the New Year at all. It's just now. Now. Because nothing has changed. We have only circulated the sun. That's all. Right. So matter has only moved. And we measure that and call it time. Okay. But in fact, if you strip all matter, what remains? Now. Timelessness. Presence. Because there is only presence. Okay. So now we see that there are more and more theories that are now aligning with what Albanians have been saying for at least 2-3 centuries now. Right? Albanians have been saying that the Albanian language is ancient. And it is not only ancient, but it contains these root ideas that would act as semantic generators for new ideas that will later emerge. New words, that is. Yes. Okay, so Albanian is very old, but it barely became part of the concatenative development that we see in the Greek language and in the Latin. Okay, but it did in the end as well. So it has both the grammars and morphologies. It has the morphology of the Semitic and the morphology of the Indo-Europeans, meaning it is acting as the link between the old and the new. Okay. So now we see that. Yes, and now we're going to look at another picture and why I fall onto that we might have crossed the Mediterranean Sea a bit earlier than what we understand. Okay. I remember this map. We've looked at this map. Remember the genetical the map of genetics across Earth. Right. So we see that E3B1 entered the Balkans very early on. This is early. Okay. Now the reason why it's not necessarily that they came early on. But in fact, it is very likely that they were among the developed ones because everybody else were hunters and gatherers. They did not develop civilizations because civilizations were happening right here. Right here. Yeah. So everybody that split early on, as you can see, the RB, R1B, and N3, all these ones who went very far and very early on, they went during very early stages of our development. Meaning they probably just had a few words, or maybe just one word. One word, one idea, and then mom and dad. Mom and dad was inherited, but then they had one word. And this word is what they would identify themselves with. They would see themselves as this, which is why they would call themselves these names. Okay. But as you can see here, my point is that we might have crossed the Mediterranean Sea earlier than what we understand. And we mustn't forget how the development of genes are. In fact, I mean, how they work, how they operate. You have A first, and then B, and then C, and then D, and then E, and then F, and then G, and then J, H, and yeah. The alphabet. This is a chronological order, meaning that E3, B1 is very old. This is older than I2. This is older than R1B. This is older than N3. And all these other mutations that will later emerge. Okay. And now the reason why I am binding some of the words with the Chinese, the Sino-Tibetan, the Tibeto-Burman, is because they came straight after us, guys. Meaning that, I mean before us, they're D. So that they came before us. Meaning that the words that are found here are also found here. Yeah, they are. Yes, they are. Because the first language came from here. Yes. Now how, so remember that they only realized one word. And then that word would be, they would meditate on that word, and they would really sing it almost. Sing it, this word, il. And this would create a new understanding, because it will initiate a trance. They would dance, remember, around the fire. They would dance because they were wild. We are wild. Remember, we're not these tame modern people. Well, we are them now, but we didn't used to be them. We used to be very wild. We used to be crazy wild and raw and spontaneous and unpredictable, but pure intelligence. But then we developed the mind, and the mind has since caused a lot of division. Yes. So that is what we're seeing. We're seeing now that this spread from A to B to and then sure there is this understanding that ChatGPT told me that while yes, language A might create a language B, but language A didn't create language C. But it doesn't take into consideration what language actually is. Language is a set of sounds only. Okay? And within a language, you will find very many words. And all these words do not belong only to this language, but it kind of like belongs to everyone else around them as well, because they all use them. Right? Nobody owns a word, guys. Nobody owns a knowledge. Nobody owns a word. But now how that word was now bended and used in that context would be what kind of distinguishes it and anchors it to those people who use it. Meaning that A is not the ancestor of D, but it kind of is, because those words were just passed on. But sure, maybe group C learned something else and D learned something else entirely. Thus, they now begin, this divergence begins solidifying further. But that does not mean that it originally did not originate from the same place, and thus also had the same sounds. Okay? So that my ChatGPT, right, I tried to explain to it why Albanian is so significant in our language development. it argued that even though it is older, it does not mean that it created all the newer languages, right? That it possibly created Latin and Greek and so on and so forth, but that it not necessarily created the English, which is like, you know, much further away. But it didn't create the English. It only created the words. That is what we're talking about. This is not a matter of politics. This is a matter of a set of words, knowledge that has been used or realized first, and then put into practice in different settings, in spirituality, in religion, in law, in this, in that, and then that would spread, and those people further on would further develop them, meaning that they will then cut kind of their link to the old language, which is exactly what happened. Yes. So you Albanians out there who think that, well, if you think that I am crazy, that is only because you do not know yet what we are speaking about. We are speaking about sound, a set of sound that we assigned to ideas that we realized whilst we grew, whilst we developed. And this and these words, these sounds would spread like wildfire, and plus they would spread because we would inherit them. It was our kids who also knew of them because they use the same words, but they will begin drifting, right? They will begin drifting. Pronunciation will be a bit different, slowly but steadily. You know, there will come factors in that will affect how something is pronounced and now what this means for that group specifically, right? Yes, meaning that in all European languages, if we only take them all, I saw a video the other day where it's kind of like was testing the percentage of the English language of what is German, how much is Latin, how much is Norse, and then it found out that the English language is like 60% Latin, 30% German, and 20% Norse. Right, meaning that, oh, it actually, all these words, well, it does now have English words, do not misunderstand me, but within the English language, we find all these other words that are found in the neighboring languages. Right, because language is knowledge, it's sound. And we all wanted knowledge because we all wanted a better living, right? Better conditions for our life. So knowledge was spread. Okay, I think I've said quite a lot now in a very short amount of time, but as you can see here, I will now go further into another video and try to explain why we find the word chi all the way over here and here and, well, everywhere else really, in Japan too, right? We also find it in the Amerindian. This is a really Indian. Come on, American Indian? Really? So insulting. But yes, to the natives people in the Americas. Okay. So that this word, this C word, this A word, that was this group over here that realized the first word spread. And this first word was spread everywhere and it was bended and used differently as civilization grew and as development happened. Right. And as our cognitive and perceptual understanding of our own being and our place in existence grew, developed. Ta-da! So now you know what happened. Now you know more what happened and what has happened and why we are the way we are. But you will because you will I will go further. We are going to look at much more. Okay, because I'm going to go all the way. We're going to explain all of life, all of truth, all of God, all of intelligence. We're going to explain it. Yes. And it is my greatest honor and joy and privilege. Yes. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day or evening, wherever you are. Bye.